So, let's dig a little bit deeper. The European Commission is led by a president and political commissioners drawn one from each member state. The current president is José Manuel Barroso, a former Prime Minister of Portugal. Each commissioner heads a Directorate General, a DG. Of particular relevance for Africa is DG Development Cooperation EuropeAid, also called DG DevCo, and that's in charge of managing EU aid towards Africa. Then DG Trade is in charge of conducting trade negotiations with Africa, including the contentious negotiations on Economic Partnership Agreements or EPAs. The Commission proposes and implements policies. It makes legislation proposals to the Council and the Parliament. It manages the EU budget and financial resources, which include development cooperation funding. And it coordinates and harmonises the 28 national policies. It leads negotiations with third countries on behalf of the EU, such as the Economic Partnership Agreements with African regional organisations and countries. The Council of the EU gathers the 28 member states' ministers every month. The Council is the most powerful EU body making political decisions on behalf of all member states regarding strategic and sensitive issues, including on Africa. It decides on sanctions and restrictive measures, a sensitive and complex issue, for instance, towards Zimbabwe's leaders, or the arms embargoes on the Democratic Republic of Congo. On foreign affairs, the chairmanship of the Council's meetings is with the High Representative and the European External Action Service. The Council also decides on EU security operations called CSDP missions, such as in Mali and the Central African Republic. The Council has permanent structures. The main ones relevant for Africa are the Coreper II, the meeting of member states' permanent representatives or ambassadors based in the EU's capital in Brussels. The Political and Security Committee. This is where ambassadors discuss foreign and security aspects, crisis and missions. The Geographic and Thematic Working Groups for Development Policy, Relations with Africa, Relations with the Africa, Caribbean and Pacific Group, and Relations with North African countries. The European Parliament is directly elected by European citizens every 5 years. The current president is Martin Schulz, a German politician. The Parliament approves EU legislation together with the Council. It shares the power to decide on the European Union's budget and regulation of financial instruments. It oversees the performance of the Commission and the Council. It is organised in committees. The most relevant for Africa are the AFET for Foreign Affairs and DEVE for Development Policies. The European External Action Service, or EEAS, is a sort of foreign service and was established in 2011. It is headed by the EU High Representative for Foreign and Security Policy, also Vice President for the Commission. Currently, the post is occupied by Lady Catherine Ashton, a politician from the United Kingdom. It is composed of a mix of national diplomats, seconded by member states, and former officials from the European Commission and the Council of the EU. The European External Action Service ensures the consistency and coordination of the EU's external action. However, in practice, European diplomacy is still a work in progress, and there's no single foreign policy. The European External Action Service prepares policy proposals and implements them after their approval by the Council. It chairs Council working groups, and it represents the EU in Africa via the EU delegations. The relations with the African Union and African countries are managed by Directorate II, led by Managing Director Nicholas Westcott. The EU delegation is led by the head of delegation or the EU ambassador, and they are composed of a mix of External Action Service staff and Commission staff. Before 2011, the delegations represented the Commission and were mostly managing aid. After 2011, the European delegations gained more competencies. These include dealing with political and economic issues, chairing meetings of the EU member states' embassies and coordinating their action, and leading on the political dialogue with the host country government. The EU delegations in African countries are the main source of information about EU funding opportunities. Each delegation has a public information officer that gives information about the EU to people in that country. In 2014, all the key positions of the EU will be filled by new leaders after the European Parliament's elections, which take place in May. European citizens directly elect their members of the European Parliament, called MEPs, who are members of national parties. National parties, sharing similar political views, form European parties with their colleagues from other countries. Europe, as a group of countries, is the biggest commercial bloc in the world and represents more than 30% of the world's exports to Africa. 5 EU countries are among the top 10 investors in Africa in 2013 in terms of FDI flows. And Europe is the first financial supporter of the African Union Commission's programs. Africa is an emerging continent with a huge demographic and resource potential. Today, Africa has new partnerships with big powers in the world, like China, the US, India, Turkey, to name but a few. These partnerships offer new opportunities for Africa and cast some doubt on the added value of traditional European development aid. Since the 1960s, Africa and Europe have intensified their exchanges in all sectors, like trade, political dialogue, development cooperation, dialogue between people and societies. The two continents represent, with around 80 countries, almost half of the United Nations General Assembly membership. Africa-Europe relations take place at several levels, at continent-to-continent, sub-regional level, national level, and between people. The African diaspora in Europe is diverse and numerous, and they also contribute to African prosperity. However, Africa and Europe very much depend on each other, and as a former minister said, they are like an Adinkra crocodile, with 2 heads and 1 stomach. Africa-Europe relations do not happen in a void. EU member states interact with African governments, and some of them have been interacting with Africans way before the EU did. Some European states, and in particular the UK, France, Portugal and Belgium, have maintained strong relations with their former colonies. The history of colonisation and its consequences is still a sensitive issue, and that may at times influence EU decisions on Africa. Of course, European states with no colonial legacy have also developed relations with African states.